realise it's a ratio, and here we are with project 1 after project 0, the Folland Gnat followed by the Hawker Hunter T1 in AM 1/72. So these are going to be projects to get my hand in with the airbrush on an actual model, as well as practicing some of the weathering techniques, using some of the kits. So we're going to have a look at what's in the kit. Then I'm going to take the sprues away, give them a nice wash in some hot soapy water, and whilst that's drying, we're going to look at the materials that I'll be using during the build. So open the box. So this is the A02105 kit with the Hot Shots colour scheme. It's on here. Oscar EW 5894 Phallus Tactical Fighter Bomber, based off of the USS SS in the Mediterranean Gulf in 1991. Skill level 1, there's my flying hour waiting to be cut out of the box. And in the box we have our bag of sprues, instructions, and a decal sheet. There we go. We'll have a look at those in a second. So the sprues, two classic Airfix grey sprues, and a clear sprue with that's actually looking really good. So looking at, get it in the camera, looking at the canopy, there's a lot of moulded detail there to make the most of that. The canopy's pretty huge considering how tiny the plane is, but then again it is a tandem seater, so come on out the bag. If only I was at my desk where I had all my tools and I wasn't just stubbornly trying to rip the bag open. Delicious. There we go. So yeah, you can appreciate there's a lot of detail there. So that should be quite easy to mask up using a toothpick and some tape. And there's lots of raised detail there to make the most of as well. So that's interesting. Feed these to the bin. And then sprue A and sprue B. So our two pilot figurines. Come on. So there's some really good raised detail on their chests, breathing gear. They're not replete with detail, and you might also be able to make out there's actually quite a lot of. So hang on. So I was about to say there's a lot of flashing, but the flashing only seems to actually be along the edges of the sprue itself. So there's little bits of flash here and there on the corners of the undersides of the wing, top sides, undersides. A little bit of excess material on this part here. Now, nothing we can't sort out with a hobby knife and some sanding sticks, but that's actually a little bit disappointing. As far as I'm aware, this is a relatively recent kit, if not a relatively recent reboxing. So yeah, around this piece, the tips of the wings here, yeah, a lot of flash, but then things like the wheels, the wings, the rest of the wings, what I'm guessing is the pisset tube there. That's a lot of flash. Interesting. So we've got the fuselage sprue, our two ejector seats. This whole automatic focusing thing is a bit bogus sometimes, you know. Right, so the tail is cast in one piece. That's nice. So you've just got the two fuselage halves that will marry together. And again we've got flashing air brake parts, some teeny tiny bits here, landing gear, more flash on these parts here. It's all stuff we can tidy up, it's all stuff we can take care of. It's just yeah, a bit weird seeing it on. Let's have a quick look at how recent this kit is. So I was really excited when I saw the clear sprue. And so this, bloody hell, this is, okay, so it was newly tooled back in 2012. And this is the 2018 boxing. The 2019 boxing, I believe, is a gift set with the paints for the Yellowjacks, yeah. So, not a brand new kit, but still relatively new. I've had older kits with less moulding problems than I see here. Particularly the Gundams. Some of the Gundams I've had are getting on for 20 years old and don't have nearly as many imperfections in the mould. But maybe it's a quantity thing, I don't know. But yeah, there's nothing here that I'm concerned about or that I don't think I'll be able to tidy up, that I'll be able to make neater. There's nothing that's making me think I might have bitten off a bit more than I can chew, but I often do that regardless of how I feel, so it's neither here nor there. Going back to actually looking at the stuff on, actually looking on the sprue, there's some absolutely gorgeous moulded detail on the wing surfaces, leading and trailing edges, access panels. On these panels, whatever they're going to turn out to be, the pilot models do look quite nice. A bit blurry because of the scale, but not the worst 1/72 scale all-in-one figures that I've seen by a long stretch. Yeah, that's weird. So if you look at I'll get to the bottom of why that's like that. So the wheels seem to be missing a hole, unless that's, are they keyed? It looks like the wheels might be keyed. Let's have a look at the landing gear struts. So these look strutish, and they do have slightly longer than they are wide pins, so that would suggest that the undercarriage is keyed, which explains the missing moulded detail. You're not going to see it, I expect. And again, on the fuselage sides, get right up under the camera, some nice moulded detail there. The cockpit seats are a bit dull, but it's 1/72, and I only want it to paint it, so I'm not going to lose any sleep there. I do like the detail they put into the landing gear. We've got the nacelles here and their slots. Bloody lovely. So that's those. Let's have another look at these instructions. So going off what I got from the the Hawker Hurricane, just looking at the instructions makes me feel confident this is going to be another one of their really good, yeah. So 126 and 80, 126 and 80, 126 being a colour I don't have to hand, probably interior grey, 80 being a green or a brown, 126, 126, 33 for black, 126 might be a silver, I can't remember, but I do have alternative colours in mind for some of these already. Side panels for the cockpit, decals on, landing gear bays for gear down, and landing gear bays for gear up, and what I'm assuming is the front or forward gear for down. Yeah, cockpit assembly and insertion. So the panels I was looking at, they're separate panels for gear up or gear down if you want it on a stand. Yeah, so you've got all your hole marks, your diametric angles. Oh yeah, and of course being a full kit rather than a gift set, the instructions actually have markings for all of the different colours that you'll need rather than just using the full. So here are the paint schemes that I won't be using these this time. I'm going to be going with Folland Gnat yellow, that lemon yellow I think it is. All your decal locations, your colour scheme guide, 1130, 11 for silver, satin white, 166 light aircraft grey along with signal red, and the Phallus tactical fighter bomber with its... Oh wow, so those rocket pod markings are actually individual decals. Oh, that'd be fun to put in, but I'm not doing that there. I am gonna finish it with the underwing tanks, I believe. So the first one's gonna be the flight leader with the black tail, and I've got the decals for that, and I'm gonna be doing another yellow Folland Gnat as the next build, but I'll be using the hull number of the display pilot team who unfortunately lost his life whilst flying on a display a few years ago now, and I'll be linking the charity link for that as well on that video. Yeah, that's what's in the box. I'm going to go give these a wash, and whilst that's drying I'm going to drag all the stuff out that I'll be using on the kit, and that'll be the next video in the playlist. On to the next one. So before we move into the instruction, I'm just going to try and explain what my process is going to be. I've seen a lot of other YouTubers and modelers who have success with doing sub-assemblies on the sprue and painting on the sprue. So I think the way I'm going to go ahead is, for example, assembling the cockpit on the cockpit piece and hand painting that and clipping that out, whereas the larger parts like the actual external paint, the base coating and top coating of the fuselage will be done when it's intact. So yeah, there'll be details like the undercarriage bays will be painted on the sprue and assembled on the sprue, so I've got something a bit more substantial than, say, whatever these are to hold on to. nice flimsy bits of undercarriage, cockpit internals. I actually have something I can get to grips with. So yeah, we'll be building on the sprue to start off with, and then moving on to sub-assembly, assembling and painting sub-assemblies into the complete kit. So yeah, here we go. So it didn't take long, but it seems that we've gotten to a point where any other sub-assemblies will be obscuring parts that I need to get to, like this panel that goes in here. I need to get some silver or aluminium on the inside of the nacelle itself. So before we carry on, I'll be masking some parts off, contact areas for the paint, and applying a base coat using the airbrush. And then, yeah, painting the internal details. Before that, I will be masking up contact areas, especially on the larger parts. The smaller parts are not so bad in internal parts, but just areas like the edge of the hull, undersides of the wings, just to make sure they're, in fact, I'll probably get that glued together now. Just add a few holes. And yeah, we'll get these guys on a airbrushing mounting frame. Okay. So masking cockpits is hard. I'm going to go away and watch some tutorials on how to do this properly and then have another go at it. But we've got some clamps on the wings to hold those together, bits and pieces masked off where needed, and everything else mounted. So yeah, be taking this away for base coating, then we'll be brush detailing the interior, assembling, and then airbrushing the exterior, working out what the two pilot figurines are going to look like as well, being well, it'll be a single figurine because it's going to be a stunt fighter rather than an RAF trainer. But yeah, that's what's coming next in the next video. Just a very brief interlude from me, guys. So on closer inspection, going through the instructions, I realised this is not the canopy from a Folland Gnat. Not sure what it's from. So I went ahead and ordered another kit. It would appear that this kit came with the correct canopy and the clear piece the additional clear piece that the kit needs. So got that. And I also noticed on where I'd assembled that on the wings, which one? Yeah, on the wings I really misaligned the join on this because of the gap here. So I'm going to take the opportunity. I've got two new sprues. Take this opportunity, so the parts that I want to leave on the sprue anyway, I can now leave on the sprue. There's a couple of parts that I clipped off that I probably didn't need to, and it actually looks like the moulding on this kit's slightly better anyway, so yeah, it's a win-win for me. So yeah, we'll re-drill the holes for the nacelles, fuel pods, whatever they are. I will get the canopy clipped out and get that masked. Yeah, and then we'll crack on with undercoating. So, back into it. So that was the first go, as I said, airbrushing something that wasn't. So that it's gone on. It has gone on, but it's gone on incredibly thin. I did notice I thought I'd set my pressure back down to about 12 because I'm using a 0.5 of a mil aperture and needle. But when I was draining down a reservoir, it was all the way up to about 20. So yeah, between the pressure and the setting I had on the airbrush, I don't think I've put quite enough paint down to classify that as a white undercoat. So we're going to go back in, give it another go. If we get the other sprue, there's not that much differentiation really. So yeah, we'll get the other go back in, go back over this. It's had a little bit of time to dry. Oh, actually, that reminds me. Had some. No, that's a non-issue really on the wings. It's a little bit thicker. Yeah, we're gonna increase the amount of paint a tiny bit and go over again with another layer of white, and then hopefully get both sets of sprues done. 1, 2, right. So here we have one of the two kits that we airbrush. This is the one where we've got some of the sub-assemblies done, the first one that I put together with a few bits and pieces quite heavily pre-shaded as far as I'm concerned. I had some difficulty with the flow control, although the overspray seems to have pretty much evened out. Yeah. So this one's got some slightly more heavier grease. What I should have done was drop the pressure down a bit more, but yeah, that it is what it is. I'll make it work. Moving on from this, we're going to be getting some paint in, detailing paint mostly with brushwork before going for the rest of the assembly. Yeah, the control afforded to me wasn't all that great, but I'm, as I said, still learning, still picking stuff up. So that's sub-assemblies. So we've got the cockpit and control columns, a little bit of silver, a little bit of gloss for the decals. The other control console needs touching up as well, particularly on the back it seems. So that'll other chair, sorry. So that'll sit in there. All go together nicely. Bit of detail. Bloody glorious. Got my little white panel here for part of the engine internals and the cockpit inside, I think. The rest of the clear sprue. Canopy is probably going to have to be touched up with a brush. I didn't quite get the coverage I was hoping for. I think the next time I do a 72 canopy, I'll be using pre-made masks or liquid mask rather than tape. That was a interesting exercise. So that's the one that's going to be going through to completion, and the one that I'll be playing with before that. No sub-assemblies, everything painted as best I can on the sprue. Again, I had a go at pre-shading, but I should have read up before rather than after. Could have done with dropping the pressure down a bit more. So yeah, no nose gear and rear gear, wheels, cockpit, tub and internals. I'm hoping I've pre-shaded the right landing gear bay part. Light touch paint on the cockpit parts. bit lighter on appreciating with this one as well. It's not as pronounced. We'll see if that makes any difference, or if I manage to completely bugger it up by overdoing the airbrush. Anyway, we've got some building to do. 2 gnats to get off the sprue and partially assemble. We'll be doing some of the detail paint with brushwork rather than airbrushing. Just as in my head, it saves a bit of time because I'm not changing paints loads. There's going to be gloss application for some of the black parts for the cockpit decals, touching up, adding silver to control columns, things like that. Should look really good once it's all together and done. So yeah, we're going to crack on. Which one to do? I think I'll do this one first and learn all my lessons on the one that I won't be taking all the way through to completion because I don't have a canopy for it, and then onto the what I'm considering my main one. Yeah, that makes sense. So we'll get this one sorted. So had a quick pour through the paints, everything's ready. So we've got Attackers white and black redline paints along with medium sea grey, interior grey green, and I don't think I'm supposed to have that one out, but there's Sky Type S, Vallejo Model Air aluminium for the metal detailing, and some light grey as well. In fact, I'm fairly certain that needs to go away. So yeah, that's everything I apparently need for internal detailing. As well as that, I've also got my acrylic gloss varnish, as I said earlier, for applying some of the decals for the internal parts, make sure that they have a nice clean surface to adhere to. So let's crack on. Well, that took a bit longer than I was expecting, but we're pretty much fully built. You saw at the end I struggled to remove the undercarriage because when I come to airbrush this, I don't want the undercarriage sticking out. So, bit of filling to do, bit of sanding to do. The fit with the dihedral on the wings isn't great. I don't know if there's something I can do about that on the other kit. But we went to town on the cockpit. Not that you can really appreciate it or see it. I just about make it out. Yeah, no weathering, no additional bits and pieces there. Slightly chewed up engine exhaust, a few gaps. I'm not going to lament over this one too much. Lessons learnt on putting it together. Going to go on to the next one. So the next one we'll be leaving the bottom plate out along with the undercarriage, and that will probably require some touching up at the end of the build and paint more paint, but that'll make getting the undercarriage in significantly easier. Yeah. Quick bit of sanding. Yeah, nice little, so gloss, matte, dark grey, silver and a couple of decals, and we have most of a Folland Gnat ready for masking and painting. Brilliant. Right guys, so here we are again. It's been a while since I've actually touched this, but we're mostly assembled, looking quite delightful. A very primitive attempt at pre-shading has taken place. I foolishly cut some nubs, alignment lugs off of my landing gear, but I've managed to get the CA glees up on those nice and tight. With the next kit, the more serious kit, I'll be leaving this panel off until after top coating and assembly. Because these were an absolute pain to get out, and I sincerely doubt I'll get them back in without doing some damage, but we can only try. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. So yeah, some gaps to fill, some just bits and pieces to take care of on the model, some bits to cover up before we go in and paint. So yeah, that's what the sandwich bags are for, because for some reason I'm out of saran wrap, shrink wrap. So yeah, just get some of these gaps, not all of them, filled, because I know that's part of the actual model. Yeah, gaps and gaps and gaps. Particularly these ones under the wing are going to be quite interesting to try and sort out, but we will try. We will definitely give it a go. Right, so we've filled the worst of the gaps in and used the reaming tool to take off the worst of the edges. So our gaps aren't quite as obvious, got some offsets. I very nearly made the mistake of putting the nose cone on, which is a clear part, and almost forgot that this is my test and experimentation airframe, rather than the other one I've got over there waiting to be fully assembled, because I've only got one of the clear sprues, unfortunately. So yeah, we're done being built, and I'm fairly certain that little flap's going to fall off any minute now. And we're all packed with some sandwich bag. Don't leave home without it. And ready for me to paint what I realise is probably one of the hardest colours to airbrush well. But it's not unlike me to do things the hard way. So yeah, we're going to go get some yellow all over this now and see what it looks like. Right, let's try that again. So as you can see, the airbrushing seems to have gone relatively well. I can now see why people like pre-shading. It does show through really well with translucent colours like this fantastic yellow. I am going to have to layer up a bit more to hide the rush job that I did of it though. Paint's already dried to the touch, maybe a little bit tacky here and there. I don't know if you can see, but the airbrush was spitting in some areas. It particularly shows up on the black to my eyes. Though all in all, for a first go on an airframe, not entirely disappointed. I am a bit curious as to why the airbrush was behaving the way it was, because I only recently stripped it back down and given it a clean, obviously. Now I'm going to have to go and do that again, because there's something preventing paint getting into the airstream. So yeah, back to bits and then back to recording. Hey there guys, so we're most of the way done with the painting now. I've been doing some work off of the camera, so we've done things like adding the pisset tube, cleaning up some of the seam lines where we can. As you can see, the pre-shading is still quite visible, but it's got a good lot of layers of the paint on now. A little bit of overspray here and there, unfortunately, but as I went into this knowing this is a first go, this is the model that I'm experimenting with and trying things out on, so I'm trying not to get held up on it. Yeah, our little plastic pisset tube. Some of the packing's going to have to come out soon. So the next thing for this is going to be a gloss coat, and then decals and weathering. Gonna get the undercarriage fixed and painted up as well. Yeah, nearly done with this. My first go at properly airbrushing a kit.
overall the paint job itself I think's come out really nicely. There's a few weird scratchy, but this is where the tape took some of the undercoat off, so it's not quite set properly. The engine part here is sort of worked loose where it's been clamped. Some of the things I've learned is, with this grainy stuff again under the wing, really be careful with filler. I think it's too late for the other gnat, but when I do the hawk, I'll be assembling it first, and then we will be base coating it and overcoating it. Undercarriage parts. Side. Yeah, I'm going to be taking the canopy and remasking that as well, because it's not quite right. But what parts have we got left? We've got undercarriage, closed undercarriage parts, open undercarriage parts. And then this has got all of the wheels on still, so our rear and forward wheels. I'm still not sure what I'm going to do with the pilots. No doubt they'll end up getting, at least one of them will end up being airbrushed and popped in. Yeah. So yeah, lessons learnt so far. If you are going to paint and assemble, you'll have to paint again, because where you clear and tidy things up, you're going to introduce gaps in the base coat that you've applied. For those of you who like to use these model stand holders, if you're painting, wrap masking tape around the rubber tips, because they've got a lovely grippy ends, which is exactly what you want when holding parts. But can we see it still? So just here is a little off colour circle where I unclamped the model from the grip, and you can see the inside was already wrapped in tape, but now the outside is as well, and it just pulled off a perfect little circle of the aerobatic yellow that I've been using. Yeah, if we just go and wander off over here and then grab. So this one I did pre-shade much more aggressively, shall we say, than this one, but you have an idea of how it's still quite dark, so looking at the two next to each other might give you a bit more of an appreciation how much I've lowered the tonal differentiation by applying the paint up in layers. What's really interesting to me is I know I think I went for 4 or 5 layers of the paint in the end, but despite the overspray, all of the detail, the panel lining is still really strong, still really stark, still really stands out beautifully, and is nice and dark as well. So yeah, that part worked really well. So I have to remember with this one I don't have the nose part or the canopy for it, because I've only got one, because Airfix didn't have a spare to send me, which is why I got the other gnat kit. So that's that. We're going to crack on with this one now. Yeah, gloss coat as it is, then assembly. Getting the undercarriage back on is going to be very interesting, because it was a matter of getting it out from these awkward holes with the panel in place. So the panel on the next gnat's going to be left off until the undercarriage is in place. So yeah, lessons learnt so far. Let's try that again. The microphone's awfully bloody quiet. So we've got all of the landing gear painted up, including the forward part, which has been on the sprue until now. Just needs another little touch of love. I mean touch of this lovely yellow. That's far too much paint. What the bloody hell are you doing, boy? Let's trim it back a bit. There we go. Yeah, undercarriage, we've touched the wheels up on the sprue as well. That will be trimmed off and glued on. One of the undercarriage legs, unfortunately, is a bit wibbly wobbly, so I'm not sure if we're going to be able to stand this up on its own 3 wheels. Touch of black for the engine exhaust, along with black on the brush painted onto the tail fin. The masking tape I put on didn't quite do the job. I'm going to have to rethink how I apply that. And we've also applied some black and silver to the pitot tube and to the nose, just to help it resemble what it would look like on the actual aircraft. That poor bloody aerial mast on the bottom of the aircraft. That thing's been beaten within an inch of its life, unfortunately. It's still hanging in there. Right, yeah, onto gloss coating, and then weathering and decals. Then after that, assembly, either a satin or a gloss coat. Then we'll put the wheels on, so we don't want shiny wheels really, and we'll be done. Brilliant, let's crack on. Hey guys, so been a bit busy behind the scenes. I was lagging behind a bit on this. So we've got a load of the top coat, several layers of the Hataka yellow one, a few areas of overspray, and 2 layers of the varnish, which has actually come out nice and glossy. Ooh, let's get some. There we go. It's a bit pebbly. So the first layer I use, it's the Vallejo gloss coat. The first layer that I put down, that's really good in that light actually. The first layer I put down was thinned using their acrylic thinner, but the next one was used put down using water and the self-leveling compound, the inhibitor. It's not perfect, but bearing in mind this is the first thing that I've actually airbrushed that wasn't a spin, I'm quite happy. I can't tell you how many times I have re-glued this on, but thank God for polystyrene cement is all I'm going to say. Not quite hitting the marks on this part. It looks a bit rubbish, but yeah, for the most part we've got a relatively well put together kit. Next step, we're going to put everything together, apply the decals and some weathering, some panel lining, and another layer of gloss coat, and that'll be this one done. So there's no nose cone part for this, there's no canopy because I've only got the one, remember, because the first kits I bought had the wrong clear sprue and Airfix were all out of them. So that's this so far. For the next one that I put on, a bit more time spent tidying up the nose cones and tidying up after putting in the gap filler where I use it. All in all, it's for a first shout, I'm pretty damn proud of this. I'm really impressed with how the God, that poor fin, of how the gloss coat has sort of tidied everything up. We've got really obvious seam lines that I need to address on the second one. That said, the top's not looking bad at all. Yeah, nicely filled in there. Along the back. Another really obvious one here. Yeah, let's just Just throw it around. Let's yeah, take the saran wrap off and get building. So we've hit a few snags all at once with the assembly. I've just had to re-glue this lovely fragile part back together. These where I snipped parts of the undercarriage off and then re-secured the front plates, it's been hard to get the wheels on, and it's even harder to try and get them into the bays with the bottom panel on. So, and one of the internal parts for the rear undercarriage has decided it wanted to detach. So I'm going to put all of these to one side. And crack on with detailing the actual fuselage, doing what I can, getting what I can out of this kit. Then we'll put it aside and get the main one put together. Yeah, bit disappointing, but the whole point of this and the next two kits is to progressively learn and apply those lessons. So whilst, yeah, really annoying, but not entirely unexpected, and the whole, as I said, the whole point is to pick stuff up, learn lessons, and carry those lessons forward into the next few kits. So yeah, decals. Wow, that took a while. That was possibly one of the most tedious things I've done, but barring the antenna, which you may have seen me snap off, and I've also realised I've got two little fin holes for the two antennas that I've not actually modelled on this. So something else to pick up and do right on the next Gnat. But yeah, we've got added a phenomenal amount of detail. I'll be perfectly honest, there are things that I've put on here, I'm not entirely sure what they're for. There's a lot of text, lots of teeny tiny text. A lot of stuff that you're not really going to notice unless you're paying a lot of attention. But yeah, I'm going to put this on the part holder and let it all air off and dry off. Get another layer of gloss on, and then it will be time for a little bit of weathering and pin washing. Yeah, look at all that extra detail on the pods, yeah, everything, all your valve and hatch covers, teeniest, tiniest roundels in the world. And again, it is a teeny tiny aircraft. A little bit of microset and microsol in the pens now, used here and there, and loads of rubbish to get rid of. So yeah, let that air out, get the airbrush set up, another layer of watery gloss, and then let that set, and then pin washing, weathering, getting the enamels out, something else new. Okay guys, so here we are nearing the end. We've got the decals on and another layer of varnish, and the bits that I can't reattach. So what we're doing, we've got a few different colours of the Tamiya panel accent colour to bring out the detail. We'll do the top in black and grey and have a go with the brown on the underside and just, yeah, play around there. We've also got, I'm probably going to be using oil and fuel grease more on the oleos on the undercarriage than anything else. Some rubber brush set for the acrylic stuff, and some dust effect that I'm going to try on the wheels as well. That reminds me of the pigment fixer out, don't I? Pigment fixer. So yeah, we'll get that done, one more layer of gloss, and then that'll be this kit as done as I can get it done, really. I do like the detail inside the cockpit. Even just with flat decals, it's pretty cool. Yeah, nearly done learning all I can from this kit, so let's crack on.
So I'm just about done with the panel line enamel washes. They generally flow really nicely. So we've got grey on this side and black on this side, with the brown on the underside. You really need to keep on top of it and keep it neat and tidy. Otherwise it gets away from you really quickly. It has added a bit of a more grimy look, so yeah, need to be a bit slower with the application, I think, and spend more time actually keeping on top of where it is. We'll have a go at getting some inside the wheel bay as well, just some of the black in there maybe, just to pick out the edges. And then I think I'll give the wheels a quick play, but I'm not expecting great things from them because they're teeny tiny, not really properly painted either, to be honest, where I've taken the flash off. Yeah, we'll just have a quick play with those and then another layer of gloss and finish. And I think I'm just about done, guys. We didn't end up using the pigment dust. It wasn't really, not really of a scale suitable for it. I've not got terrain to detail with it. We did go with the wet pigment, the natural earth on the wheels. I know you wouldn't really get it on the wheels on an aerobatic vehicle because they operate out of tarmacked airfields, but I wanted to give it a go, see what happens. So that's on top of the black Tamiya panel liner and around the wheels that don't really have any tread, so not a lot of detail there to pick out with it, but it's there. Bit of engine grime on the aloows for the landing gear. Nice grimy underside. I think this stage would go much easier if the gloss coats were smoother, which is about application and technique, not the coat itself. So we'll see how I get on with this on the next Gnat. I'm not seeing a great deal of difference really between, so there's quite a noticeable difference in my opinion between the black and the grey, but the brown and the black, maybe the brown's a bit more obvious against the yellow, I don't know. But yeah, it looks good. Not perfect. I think applying the pin wash in smaller amounts and tidying it up as I go, rather than doing a whole panel and then trying to put on loads of thinner to get rid of the excess, is the way ahead with that as well. But that's it. We will gloss coat this, take some pictures and do a summary video of the lessons learned so far. My first incomplete kit because I made mistakes which I've learned from, and unfortunately it wasn't correctly boxed at the factory. This happens, and Airfix didn't have a sprue to send to me, but I've got the other kit. Some parts assembled, some parts not, but pretty much ready to go. We'll get that. We'll do our best to build that, applying as many lessons as we have from this, what we learned from, and then what we learned from that kit will go on to our 172nd Red Arrow Hawk. So I've already got the canopy masking set for this and a metal pisset tube, which is going to be hopefully be an absolute godsend, because this thing is holding, this poor tube is holding on for dear life. Yeah, we'll let this dry, get the gloss coat on, do a sexy little photo shoot of it, and yeah, it's done. Only taken me a few months due to work, but there we go.